CMS-based systems do not scale economically past tens of millions of pages. Traditional CMS-based architectures are built around three core runtime dependencies: a centralized database, SQL or NoSQL, runtime queries executed per request, server-side template rendering on every page load. At small to moderate scale, this model is flexible and familiar. At very large scale, tens of millions to hundreds of millions of pages, it becomes economically and operationally prohibitive. Each page view in a CMS system typically incurs one or more database reads, application layer logic execution, template rendering, cache lookup, and possible invalidation. Even when aggressively cached, cache misses, revalidation, and edge cases accumulate. Index rebuilds, schema migrations, and cache purges become high-risk operations that can impact availability. Under Qeebo's static architecture, the cost profile at large scale is fundamentally different from that of a traditional CMS. For a site containing approximately 50 million pages, infrastructure requirements are limited to object storage, CDN edge delivery, and offline build infrastructure that is not user-facing. At an average page size of roughly 15 kilobytes, total storage requirements are around 750 gigabytes, resulting in monthly storage costs in the range of $15 to $30. Even under high-traffic conditions, CDN bandwidth costs typically fall between $500 and $2,000 per month, while batch build compute, amortized across continuous generation, adds an additional $200 to $500. In aggregate, total monthly operating costs remain in the range of $700 to $2,500. These costs scale primarily with storage and bandwidth, both of which benefit from commodity pricing and long-term cost decline, rather than with traffic complexity or runtime load. By eliminating runtime dependencies entirely, Qeebo's static model removes entire categories of operational failure that are common in dynamic systems. There are no databases to fail, no queries to degrade in performance, no cache stampedes during traffic spikes, and no partial deployments that leave the system in an inconsistent state. Memory leaks, cold starts, and runtime latency variability are structurally impossible. A static page either exists and is served correctly from the CDN, or it does not. There is no intermediate failure mode. As the system scales beyond 100 million pages, this architectural difference becomes increasingly significant. In CMS-based systems, costs grow nonlinearly as indexes expand, queries become more expensive, and operational complexity increases. Static systems, by contrast, scale linearly with storage alone. At 500 million pages, a CMS typically requires a fundamental redesign of infrastructure, while Qeebo requires only additional disk space and incremental build time. This is what makes scaling to hundreds of millions or even billions of pages technically and economically feasible. The economic implications of this model are equally important. In traditional CMS architectures, traffic is a liability. Higher usage directly increases infrastructure costs and operational risk. Viral content can destabilize the system. In Qeebo's static model, traffic is absorbed almost entirely by the CDN, and frequently accessed pages become cheaper to serve due to edge caching. This inversion turns traffic into an asset rather than a risk, allowing Qeebo to pursue scale aggressively without fear of infrastructure collapse.